Oh boy, it's finally time. After years of waiting and tons of anticipation, Nintendo finally did it. They finally announced the Wii 2. Honestly, can't believe they did the announcement on the one day where I said I was gonna take a break. It was like they were waiting for me to be like, oh, you fell asleep? Drop it. And this announcement for the Switch 2 had a strange vibe to it, honestly. It's like, matter of fact, everyone saw it. You already know what it looks like, whatever, just here. Had a weird type of energy going on. And I'm really excited to see how the Switch 2 is planning to compete because, listen, they're not alone in the handheld market anymore. And yes, the leaks were relentless. My God, dude. I feel like your grandma at this point already knew what the Switch 2 was gonna look like. And oh my God, okay, so I was under NDA for the longest time, so I couldn't say anything, but now that it's officially announced, and I'll see if I can say these things, a company reached out a few months ago for something completely unrelated to the channel. I'm not gonna disclose them because that'll be kind of put them in trouble. I don't wanna do that. And they just straight up sent me what the Switch 2 was gonna look like. I was like, are you guys allowed to even share this? We haven't even done anything together yet. And listen, I'm a nobody. I'm a speck compared to some of the other big players on the scene. So for them to be disclosing that to someone like me? Dude, yeah, imagine who else companies were sharing this info around to. Like, it's no wonder they got leaked. But that's okay. We finally have confirmation that the Switch 2 is real. And that's kind of the first thing that I thought was really, really fascinating. The name, the fact that it's literally just called the Switch 2. They've never done that. NES, Super NES, Game Boy Color, 3DS, new Super 3DS XL Lite featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. I mean, they'll really go out of their way to make sure that they don't use the number 2 in their console names. So this is kind of a big deal. I'm sure they're learning from their mistakes from the Wii U when a bunch of parents didn't understand the difference and they don't want like a sequel or repeat of that. Switch 2 also means that we shouldn't be expecting too much of a deviation of what the original Switch 1 is. It's still going to be a portable, dockable handheld that has 2 controllers that slip on and off and plays Nintendo games. So what do we know? Now, I want you to know my experience comes from taking apart and putting back together a bunch of these Switches over the years. So this is what my expertise comes from. I promise I'm not talking blindly here. If there's anyone that's qualified to explain things about this hardware, I'd like to think it's me. So the whole thing is getting bigger, thinner, but bigger. Like I said, Nintendo is entering a whole new era of handhelds where there's a lot more competition. And as much as I might be in the minority side of this, the general population has spoken and they say that they want bigger handhelds with bigger screens. So that's what we're getting. The leaked models that we've been seeing puts the screen at about 8 inches compared to the Switch's 6.2 screen and the OLED 7-inch screen. For reference, the Steam Deck has a 7.4-inch screen, so just picture just a little bit bigger than that. The kickstand also seems to be changed out for a thinner design. I think everyone remembers just how easy it was for these things to break and then just never work again. They definitely fixed it with the metal kickstand on the OLED model, but I don't know, this just looks like a hybrid of a mixture of both of them. The Joy-Cons got a really good makeover. It looks like they're going with all black with accent colors instead of the other way around. Although, sure enough, you just know that they're gonna be people making day one creating shells for these things because look what I saw. You see that right there? I see 2 YY0 screws and a seam line. We're in business. We are definitely gonna be taking these things apart. It also seems that they're not getting rid of that low profile joystick design, just making them bigger. Yeah, at this point, if they don't ship with Hall effect joysticks, there's no justifying that. That's just gonna be a real scummy move if they don't. The really crazy new thing this time is that they don't just click in anymore. They just kind of just slap in using a new connector. I like the magnetic sticks because before YouTube, I actually used to repair tech devices for a little bit of just side money when I was in college. And out of all the issues that would come to me, this little thing that would always keep the Joy-Cons locked in would always wear down, and eventually you'd have a Joy-Con that would just slip off with very little force. The big issue is that they made these little parts out of plastic, which means over time, they would eventually wear down and it just sucked. So I would always end up replacing them with metal ones so it never ever happen again. Now it seems like that won't be an issue because there's no friction here. It just stays in place and it doesn't move up or down. So that's a really good upgrade. But I am curious to see what happens exactly when somebody drops the Switch 2. Will it just like fly off or what? I don't really believe in the idea that the connector piece will just eventually just snap off because the pressure point is usually being placed on the top and the bottom of the Switch 2, not the connector. But even if it was, and let's say this does break off somehow, if the OLED Switch is any indicator, this should be a pretty straightforward fix. You won't have to throw away your entire Switch, and these parts usually aren't very expensive, so like maybe 10, 15 bucks for replacement parts. So no matter what, I'm not really worried about it. And this clip is really interesting. People are speculating that the Joy-Cons could be used as a mouse. I'm not fully convinced on that just yet, but if there was any confirmation of that theory, is this thing. That looks like an optical sensor of sorts. You know, the one that like every single mouse in the world uses nowadays. Now this might actually be the Switch 2's gimmick, which means more maybe pointer mouse type games. But what I think would be really awesome for this thing, honestly, is just proper mouse support for shooters and other types of games. Yeah, plenty of people actually play in this configuration where it's just like move with a Joy-Con in one hand and then just shoot and aim with a mouse in the other hand. It's a very common type of playstyle. By the way, someone on Blue Sky mentioned that the new sound effect just sounds like someone slapping ass, and I can't get that out of my head, so now you have to bear this burden with me too. Oh my god. We're getting a new dock, same thing as before. I am hopeful that we get some actual hardware in here that could render games at a higher res, but I'm not holding my breath, honestly. It's going to be backwards compatible with most Switch 1 games? What do they mean by that? No, but it's probably like for stuff like Nintendo Labo, the cute cardboard thing that they did. And those weird physical releases for things like Tetris 99, because they did actually make a physical release of that for some reason. You know, suddenly it makes sense why Nintendo was going after Yuzu and Ryojinx now, because if the games are going to be pretty similar and backwards compatible, it makes sense why they do that, even if it is pretty scummy from a legal standpoint. But yeah, the Switch 2 being backwards compatible means that there's not really a good reason for original Switches to be used anymore if the Switch 2 is just going to play them better. The announcement screen showed up on my main homepage and it just, oh man, this just feels sadistic. And lastly, we're getting a full direct with more details in April. And that's it. That's all we got. This is more of a confirmation of stuff we already knew more than an announcement, because like I said, even my mom texted me pictures of a leak and was like, is this the new one? And I was like, where did you get that? Okay, so those are the 100% obvious stuff. Now for some more of the little things that I noticed. There's a second USB-C port. And I know why they did this. I know exactly why they did this. I remember it was a huge deal when the first Switch came out that you couldn't charge your Switch while in kickstand mode before. And there wasn't a really good reason for that other than just, whoops, they forgot about that. So now we have one on the top and one on the bottom, so we can have way more options for not just charging, but also any other accessories like battery banks or headsets or tinier docks. I don't know, whatever. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with all the older accessories for the Switch 1 and how many people are actually going to modify them to work for the Switch 2. Like, there's already a pretty well-established amount of designs for things that people might want for their Switch. Like, I was able to 3D print this really cute Pro Controller stand for my limited edition Tears of the Kingdom controller, or this attachment for Joy-Cons that actually clip into place that change the angle of how the Joy-Cons sit so they can feel more like a traditional controller. It's actually pretty comfy. Or these little cases that are used to store your Switch cartridges. You think they'll be adding a little notch or something to the Switch 2 carts like they did with the 3DS? Because, I mean, who knows? I'm honestly really curious to see. If this is what's possible right now, I honestly can't imagine what people will come up with for the Switch 2. I was able to print these using my Bamboo Lab A1. They have a pretty sweet combo that comes with their AMS system that lets you do super intricate color combos, so you're not just stuck with single colors. They also sponsored this video, so big thanks to them for that, especially on such a short notice here. Listen, I don't want this part to just be an ad, so I'm gonna give you a few tips to actually get this thing running way better. If you're wondering what materials to buy if you're just starting out, honestly, just get the PLA mats. They have this really nice finish to them that doesn't have that weird, oh, I 3D printed this kind of look to it. Oh, and definitely download their app. It's called Bamboo Handy. It gives you a whole database of just free to print models that other people have made. You can just load up and send over to your printer. The A1 actually takes care of all the calibration stuff and extrusion flow and all that other stuff. So you don't even have to think about any of that. The printer takes care of all of that for you. I'm really excited to see what the community comes up with for the Switch 2. If you want to be ready for that or just want to get started with 3D printing, you can pick up an A1 combo with the AMS in the description. It's a really great printer. I really do like it. And big thanks to Bamboo Lab for sponsoring this part of the video. Okay, another question that I had. What is that button down there? Could that be for voice chat finally, or a mute, unmute switch? I mean, it's not even labeled. I don't know. And I just got a little bit happier when I still see a brand new device being released with a headphone jack. That's so nice. And of course, that new Mario Kart they showed off. They look like they've been using Super Mario Wonder type of models. It's been over 10 years since we've gotten to like a brand new real Mario Kart, so we're long overdue for this. And I want to see all of it. I want to see 24-player multiplayer, full-on custom maps, all of that. Okay, so now for sure we know we're getting more information on the Switch 2 in April. So here's just a few things that I'd like to see mentioned in the presentation. First off, I think we need to have an overhaul to the eShop. I mean, what's funny enough is that over the life of the Switch, I used to be all digital everything, just store everything on a single SD card kind of guy. But I've slowly transitioned over to full physical copies for basically everything. I rarely buy things in the digital store anymore, but a big part of that is because of the eShop just being such a mess right now. There's no point in browsing for new games on the eShop if all you're gonna show me is just AI slop and 17 different hentai games. Also, it's just painfully slow for some reason. I really have no explanation for this. There's no reason it should be this slow. And bring back some background music again. Please, it's not necessary, but they actually made some music for the Switch eShop, and then last minute they just said, never mind, it just didn't release with it. That really sucks. I don't know if I can play it, so I'll just link it down below so you can hear it. It's honestly like really, really pretty. Oh, right. Can we just like outright buy retro games again? Nintendo Switch Online is cool, but like I'm sure a bunch of other people would prefer just to be able to just buy the games and keep them as their own digital copies of the retro games. Kind of like the Wii U. That thing was like the everything console back in the day. I mean, it could play literally everything Nintendo related. And themes, oh my God, modern consoles are getting so boring. Just let us have themes, please. This generation of gaming just feels so bland of anything personality-wise. Everyone's Switches look exactly the same. And that empty themes menu has been mocking me for like 6-7 years now at this point. Enough. Do me a favor, if you have a 3DS at home, go boot it up again. I guarantee you your DS doesn't look like my DS. Everyone is unique and special. And I really miss that about Nintendo. Now's your redemption shot, dude. Go give us some themes. I promise. People will pay for them. I promise you. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but a big part of this channel was built off of Switch videos. Like that is a big part of what got me here today, honestly. I'm sure there's a lot of you that have been watching for years that have actually been introduced to my channel by one of these Switch videos. And what really sucks is I'm not ready to let go of the Switch 1. I still have projects for it that I still want to cover. Like, check this out. Hold on. You see that? Yeah, so the Switch Lite here is busted, but like, what if we could put an OLED screen in there? Yeah, there's a mod kit that just came out recently that lets you put an OLED screen in your Switch Lite. I can't wait to do a video on this. I'm really excited for that. A lot of people are going to be upgrading to the Switch 2, which means there's going to be a bunch of these Switch 1s, Switch Lites lying around. So this thing still has some life left in it. So if you're thinking about what to do with your old Switch, get subscribed so you don't miss that video. But yeah, I'm excited to see where the Switch 2 finally goes. I mean, really this just means we're starting the cycle all over again. I'm talking Switch 2 Joy-Con shell swap, Switch 2 teardowns, and hopefully, if we get lucky, a Switch 2 hardware exploit that will let us jailbreak it again. Fingers crossed for that. But for now, the Switch 2 is dropping into a brand new landscape for handhelds. It'll be interesting to see if just Nintendo exclusives is enough to compete now, because apart from that, many other companies are already doing things way cooler, way faster, way better in terms of both hardware and software. Now, question for you guys, how much are you willing to pay for this thing? I'm thinking $400 would be perfect. Kind of makes it competitive enough and affordable enough for people to actually like compel people to go out and buy it. But what do you think? How much is this thing going to cost? And will you be picking it up at launch or later down the line? Because don't expect any price drops on this thing for years, if ever. Nintendo and every other console manufacturer has already been pretty set on keeping their consoles at the same price. Plus, remember, Nintendo rarely ever sells consoles at a loss, unlike Sony and Microsoft. So yeah, a little bit of a yappy video this week, but sometimes some announcements are so big that it's worth dropping everything and just making a video on everything that I thought about. A whole new Nintendo era, which means a whole new era for this channel. I can't wait to see what it brings. Let me know your thoughts, and thanks for watching.